All right, Pro Enzo Vidz back here with the Ankle Breaker podcast, episode 9. And unfortunately, it's the final one of 2021. So obviously, we've got through 9 episodes of the Ankle Breaker podcast this year. So it's a final one, and but it'll be bigger and better next year, and I can't wait for more podcast episodes and making more. So but in saying that, though, I've been joined by a special guest today, another fellow content creator in Warriors NRL Fanatics. So Warriors NRL Fanatics, how are you going this afternoon? And just how you been overall?
I've been very good, and thanks to Enzo for having me on his podcast, which has been great addition this year to watch his new Ankle Breaker podcast, which he started up this year. So it's great to be on here, and I've been great, and I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yeah. No, sounds good. I think it's been a great podcast. I think it will just get better over time. Next year, when I do it consistently, every Monday next year, I think it'll be very good. So I'm looking forward to more episodes of doing it. But in saying that, we're going to start with the topics now. So now I was saying this to Warriors NRL Fanatics in the green room. Since there was only 2 games, two teams that played yesterday, obviously in the grand final, I'm not going to make like a team of the week because, like I said, there's only been 2 teams that played yesterday, and I don't think there's enough to really determine a team of the week, in my opinion. So all we're going to do is me and Warriors NRL Fanatics are going to come up with our top 3 players on ground yesterday in the grand final. So just our top 3 players overall in the grand final that we thought were the best on field. So Warriors NRL Fanatics, I'd like to ask you first. Who would you say was the top 3 players on ground yesterday, in your opinion, in the grand final?
Well, my top 3 on ground, look, I thought, you got to go with at number 3, I'll go with I think, it's Brian To'o had a good game, so I'll go with Brian To'o at 3. And also at number 2, I'm going to go with this is a hard one. You know what? I think Capewell played well, so I'm going to give it to Capewell. And obviously I can't go past Nathan Cleary, so Nathan Cleary's my number 1. So that's my top 3.
Yeah, look, that's a very good top 3, actually. I think I agree with but 2 of them. Like when you said Cleary and Brian To'o, I definitely agree with those 2. I thought those 2 were instrumental and really big in the Panthers win yesterday. Kurt Capewell was good, but I thought Matt Byrne, just in my opinion, was a slightly better in my opinion. But like Capewell was good in defense. I thought like he was very good in defense. Offered a lot in that area, but just in my opinion, I think Matt Burton actually played a really big part, for the Panthers. I think he scored the first try of the match. He was pretty good overall. So I go with him personally. But so like I said, my top 3 in my opinion is Nathan Cleary, number 1. Number 2, Brian To'o, like you said, was really good. And number 3, I'd go with Matt Burton, in my opinion. But I think a lot of players for Penrith especially played pretty well. But before we go on to the topics, actually, I just want to ask, who would you say was the worst player in the field? I know there was a couple of players who were very quiet yesterday, but who would you say was that one player that was pretty bad yesterday for either Penrith or Souths, in your opinion?
For people, I think Viliami Kikau was quite quiet, actually. So I'm going to say Kikau, actually. So, also, a shout out to Matt Burton as well. I thought Matt Burton had a pretty good game. For South Sydney, Cameron Murray was probably one of their best players. I thought he had a great game. Dane Gagai, I thought was pretty quiet for South. So, I'll go with Gagai.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think, look, if I was going to choose someone that had a bad or quiet game yesterday, I think I didn't really see much of Tevita Tatola from South. Like, I didn't really see much of him, actually. Like, was he injured? I don't know, because I feel like his minutes yesterday were very limited because I didn't really see him on the field, to be honest. I saw more of Mark Nichols on there, more of Tom Burgess on there, like all the other front rowers, but Tevita Tatola. So, look, I think he was a bit quiet. Maybe for Penrith, like if I was to choose at least one person that was quiet for Penrith yesterday, um, I think I think Paul Momirovski was a bit quiet. That's just in my opinion. I think Momirovski was a bit, not bad or anything, but he just wasn't effective enough, in my opinion. Like he was okay defensively, but didn't offer much in attack. And also, I got to remember this one as well. Tyrone Mayer was shocking yesterday. Like he wasn't that good at all. I think he was the worst player on field by far, in my opinion. But yeah, look, I think many players played well yesterday, but just a couple of quiet ones. That's all. But yeah, let's get into the topics, shall we? Let's move on from that and go on to the topics now. So, topic number one, well, it's basically just an overview and our sort of thoughts and review on the game yesterday in the grand final. So, yeah, Warriors NRL Fanatics. What's your thoughts on the grand final yesterday? Like, what's your overall review and like your overall thoughts on the game itself yesterday? Like, was the quality good, and like was the the game like a good grand final that was a good grand final for the ages? Like, do you think that was a good game yesterday? Like, what's your basically review on it all? Was it good?
Well, I thought it was a great grand final. Actually, I thought it was probably it's probably the best one since a while. I thought last year's one was pretty disappointing. I thought this year's grand final was much better than last year's one, personally, from my point of view. And the way the game started, it was very quick. Both teams, they were up in each other's faces. Both defensively very good, had both started very well. And I think Penrith's kicking game really was the main reason why they won that. With Nathan Cleary and that. So I think it was a quality game of footy between both teams. And even though South Sydney lost, I think they can be proud of their efforts this season, because they were written off a couple of weeks ago. And they did start to get to the stage at the grand final. And the Panthers obviously were written off a couple of weeks ago as well. So both teams played outstanding, and Penrith deserved to win. They were the better team on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my thoughts on it on the game yesterday. I think I'd say it's the better grand final since 2016, because that game yesterday in the grand final reminded me of the 2016 game between Sharks and Storm. Like, it was a very gritty sort of defensive sort of game. Like, the intensity was pretty high, and yeah, it was a tough game. Like, it was a game where both teams could have won. Souths could have won, Panthers could have won, but in the end, Panthers got the job done. And full credit to them for getting the win yesterday. I think it was a well-deserved victory. But yeah, look, Souths were very brave. Like, I think, Souths had a lot of chances, and unfortunately they blew it themselves, because obviously Cody Walker's intercept was a big turning point in that game, because if he never threw that intercept pass, then maybe it would be a whole different game. And I guess when Alex Johnson scored in the dying minutes of the game, like I think it was about 5 or 4 minutes left of the game, it was around that sort of minute mark. It was like that many minutes left, wasn't many. And yeah, when Johnson scored, Adam Reynolds had the kick from the sideline to potentially make it 14-all, but he missed it just because it looked like it was going to come back in, but then just went out unfortunately. So yeah, look, it could have been a different game if Souths were better with the ball and obviously executed all their opportunities properly. But yeah, it is what it is. Panthers are now the premiers, and it's a very well-deserved victory in my opinion. So well done to the Panthers, and yeah, good on them. I think it's very good for that club. Very good to see Ivan Cleary finally become a premiership winning coach, because it's taken him a long time to be that premiership winning sort of or player and coach, because he's never won one before. So good on him in that. So yeah, good moment for him and Nathan as well. Going on to the second topic now. Now this is an interesting one. I know 2022 is still a fair while away. It's like not really that, it's close, but it's still a fair bit away, for making predictions and that sort of stuff. But the question is, since the Panthers won yesterday, can they go back to back in 2022? Like, can the Penrith Panthers go back as back-to-back premiers in 2022? I mean, you don't have to say yes or no, but I think you can say if it's possible. Like, if it is possible they can go back to back in 2022. But yeah, look, I want to stay away from 22 predictions as much as possible. But just do you see happening? Like, is it potential they can go back to back in your opinion? Warriors Fanatics.
Well, without giving too many predictions away, because it's a bit too early for predictions, obviously. But look, there are a chance. You definitely could do it. I mean, they're not losing too many players. Obviously, they haven't lost too many players, not losing too many players in the off season. But there's a possibility, but you never know at this rate. It's we've got a whole off season to go through from now on. So things change, injuries can happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's going to be drama in the off season. I mean, we've already seen a very brief, taste of drama in the off season. We've already seen obviously Walsh, the Storm players now apparently Offa Hickey Ogden from the Bulldogs being investigated now. So yeah, it's but it's a long off season, and I expect a lot of things are going to happen in the off season as well. A lot of crazy things are going to occur. But look, I'm not going to say yes or no, like I said, but I think that there's a lot of potential for the Panthers to go back to back. I think there's a very good chance they can. They've got a great young team. They've got great halves in Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary. That's at least one of the top three halves combinations in the NRL, in my opinion. Very classy halves combination there. And they're just a talented team overall. They've got a lot of talent. I mean, it's great how they all bond together very well. They're all very, very good mates. And yeah, I guess that's a key thing and why they've done so well, because they're all very close mates and they all get along very well with each other. And I think that's a big part of their success, So yeah, I think it's definitely a big chance of happening, but it remains to be seen if they can do that in 2022, but it's definitely possible. I'll put it out there. It's definitely possible the Panthers can go back-to-back in 2022. Moving on to the third topic now. So in the third topic, it's an interesting one. Like it's one where it has a lot of question marks, let's say. We obviously don't know what he's going to do next year in that. But yeah, Wayne Bennett, the departing South Sydney Rabbitohs coach, obviously his future and coaching or whatever, it's kind of up in the air. Like, we don't know what he's going to do next year. Like, will he have the break next year? Will he, come into some sort of capacity role with the Rabbitohs? Because there's talk he could walk into like some sort of backroom job with the Rabbitohs or something. Or will he coach or will he have the break next year and in 2023 be the new coach of the Queensland team? Like, there's a lot of question marks to be asked about that. But yeah, Warriors NRL Fanatics. Where do you potentially see Wayne Bennett at next year? And that, like, where do you think his next sort of job would be, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I reckon he will probably. I think next year. This is a very hard one to say, because he's, the media did ask him a few questions about in the press conference. Whether he said his time isn't up yet, so he still believes he can, still coach in that, because well to, get these teams premiership grand finals like so. He's done it with the Dragons, he's done it with many teams as well. That's where it all started for him. So I'm going to say he probably will take a bit of a rest next year, and once the new Queensland team comes in, I think he'll coach the new Queensland team for me.
Yeah, no, that's actually that's a good point. That is a very good point. I think that's a big chance of happening. I think Wayne Bennett, I think he will have the year off. I agree with you Fanatics and also Nick, who said the exact same thing in the live chat. He also said that he believes Bennett will have the year off. But yeah, I think I think he will. I think he will have the year off. I think he'll obviously go back to Brisbane, because I think he's going to move back to Brisbane in 2022. And I guess just have a year off from everything, I guess, and then by 2023 comes, when the new Queensland team comes, or whatever the new Queensland team will be called. I mean, we'll have to wait and see what it's called. But yeah, I think by then he'll be the new Queensland coach in 2023. I think that's what he'll pursue next. That's his new job. I think that's what's going to happen. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. what he does do. But I think him having the year off next year and potentially the year after being the new Queensland coach, I think that's a real possibility in my opinion. So yeah, we should just wait and see, I guess. And now the fourth topic. Now this is another one which is a bit like Wayne Bennett, I suppose. Like we don't know what he's going to do next year. It's it's very interesting. But I guess today we saw on his Instagram post actually that he's kind of given a clue that he could be just retiring from the game on his latest Instagram post. So Benji Marshall, the Rabbitohs utility player off the bench. So yeah, like, do you think Benji Marshall will retire? Yes or no? I'm going to say yes personally. I think he will retire, but I'm just interested to see what you think. Like, do you think he'll go on for another year, or do you think 2021 was the last year of Benji Marshall in rugby league?
Look, I think he will retire. Personally, from my point of view, I think he will. And the game, he's done a lot for not only the game of rugby league as well as New Zealand rugby league too. So he's been a great ambassador for the sport. And if he does retire, which will probably happen, I wish him all the best. He's been a great player for many, many years, and had a few injuries, a couple of injuries lately, a couple of years. He's only playing that bench role. So, yeah, I think he will retire at the end of this year. I think that'll be it for Benji. And, all the best to him if he's retiring.
Yeah, no, well said. I think he will retire, like I did say before. I agree. That's the last of Benji Marshall will see. I think 2021 was the end of Benji Marshall. I mean, look, there's a possibility he can go on for another year. I mean, I think that's definitely possible because obviously maybe now with Anthony Milford's drama, like he may not even go to the Rabbitohs next year because obviously his charge is pretty bad. But I guess the NRL will have to keep investigating to see what's actually happened. But yeah, like I think he'll retire. I think this is his last game. Unfortunately, I think yesterday in the grand final was his last ever game. It may not be, but I believe it was. If he does retire, I think he'll be known as one of the greatest ever Kiwi players. I think he has to be up there as one of the best Kiwi players to ever play the game. Absolute freak of a player, such a quality class player. He will be missed if he does retire. But look, like you said before, Fanatics, he's had a couple of injuries in the past, but his body's actually held up pretty well this year. Like his body's actually been pretty good this year for Souths. Like, he's hasn't really got many injuries this year. Like he's actually played consistently pretty well for the Rabbitohs. Like I think that jersey 14 role, he's done a very good job. He's provided a lot of versatility off the bench. He's played a bit of centre this year. He's played a bit of halves. He's played at many positions. He's played that as a lock forward role. So he's done a very good job for Souths this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he does want to continue for another year because I certainly think it's possible that he will. I think he'll retire, but I'd like to see Benji going for another year. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It's a bit like Wayne Bennett. We'll have to wait and see what does happen in the coming weeks. Because I feel like in the coming weeks, we'll learn a lot about what players will do next year, where players will be, what they'll do. So we'll learn a lot about that in the coming weeks, I suppose. But yeah, like I think we're about to end the podcast now. I mean, it's a little bit of an early finish, but I guess no team of the week obviously kind of makes it a bit shorter, I guess. So it's but yeah, it's all right. To end off the podcast though, like to end it all off. Obviously, it's a joke. It's a joke at the same time, but you can have the chance to call someone out if you really want to. But yeah, last one, topic number 5. It's about your biggest numpty of the week. So, biggest numpty of the week is basically as we know, like someone that may have said some sort of controversial comment during the week. Potentially, someone made a stupid comment or someone's done something to you or something like that. Just you have the chance to sort of call them out and then have your say on it. Also, Warriors NRL Fanatics, do you have a numpty of the week by any chance?
Well, look, there's not been bugging me this week in terms of, but actually, I'm going to give it to the people on Instagram. last night, was the South supporters saying they were robbed against Penrith, and saying officiating was all in Penrith's favour, which I absolutely disagree with. Penrith absolutely deserved to win, and I don't think they were robbed at all. So, it probably goes to those South fans that said they were robbed.
Yeah, I agree with that actually, because there's a lot of South fans that are going on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, claiming they were robbed. Here's the thing: there was some very dodgy calls during the game. I understand there were a couple of dodgy calls, but it wasn't just in favour of Penrith. Yep. I mean, South's got a couple of dodgy calls as well. So when you think about it, it's 50-50 of the whole call stuff. So they can't just claim they were robbed. I mean, they had their chances, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And Panthers were the deserving winners in the end. I just think the final ninth of the week for the year for me, because obviously it's the last podcast episode for the year, and obviously I'm going to give my final ninth of the year. Well, it's he said it a couple of weeks ago. I think he said about 3 weeks ago now, and obviously it's come back to really bite him badly. Paul Kent said that the Panthers they're done for 2021. Like Paul Kent said that the Panthers were done on 360. And he said that 3 weeks ago, and 3 weeks later they win the premiership, and it looks like an absolute goose now. Paul Kent, he looks like an absolute idiot for saying that. Paul Kent's he's always been a real fucked up idiot in my opinion. I mean, he makes some all right calls on NRL 360, but at the same time, he's a bit of a goose that doesn't have any idea of the game. He's only played one first grade game anyway, so what's the point of even having him on the show? On 360, so he's really fucked up there and saying Panthers were done for 2021. So what an idiot. But anyway, that does bring it into the Ankle Breaker podcast for 2021. 2022, it'll be back next year, be bigger and better. Obviously, I'll be getting many more people on. Like for example, I'll be getting Fanatics on yet again. I'll be getting Nick from Australia, Sam Revel, Entertain House, Hold the Ball. All these other content creators out there, I'll be getting them on next year. And, potentially some fans. I might get some, fans on if they really want to come on during the live just to make it a bit more interesting, I guess. But, I think it's been pretty good, the Ankle Breaker podcast. And I think every episode so far, we've cracked over 150 views every podcast episode so far. So that's a pretty successful effort, a successful thing, I think. I guess it should be good next year. I think it definitely will be. Warriors and NRL Fanatics. Anything you want to say before we end the live?
To say thanks for on the podcast, and it's been great fun, good chat, and cheers to everyone that's tuned in and watched, and looking forward to the podcast again next year, which will be good. But enjoy your off season, everyone. It's been great fun.
Yeah, definitely, and I'd say it too. Thanks for the chat for watching this afternoon. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch the Ankle Breaker podcast. It's obviously a podcast I came up with not long ago, and I think it's been really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing it more in 2022. But before I do end the podcast, Warriors NRL Fanatics' Instagram, or no, not Instagram, but YouTube channel. Like if you want to subscribe to Warriors NRL Fanatics, his channel link will be in the description down below. So that will be there in the description down below when this live does end. But Warriors NRL Fanatics, thanks for joining me on the Ankle Breaker podcast, episode 9, the final one for 2021. And I'll see you all later and next year in the Ankle Breaker podcast. So see everybody. See you later.